Okay, thank you, Sister Sumitra, for hosting this event again. Welcome to our sharing here. Okay, so today is our fifth session for this revisiting the life of the Buddha. We have covered the life of the Buddha. We have covered his life, then how he left home, and then he went for his he became an ascetic, and then eventually he became the Buddha, and then he went to see his five friends, and then he taught them the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Okay, so we have covered up to slide number 10. Maybe we should do a quick revision of slide number 10, sister. Then we will continue with slide number 11. Huh? Okay, so last week we have done this slide number 10, which says, okay, I shall recite to you, I shall chant to you this sutta also. Like I've said, it's also to encourage you all to learn chanting. Idangko pana bhikkave dukkha nirodha gamini patipada arya satchang ayameva aryo atangiko maggo seyatidang sammaditthi samma sankappo samma vaca samma kammanto Samma ajivo, samma vayamo, samma sati, samma samadhi. Okay, basically what we have done last week was we introduced to you the noble truths of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Yeah. First, we have covered the Four Noble Truths: the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the place where suffering is ended, the cessation of suffering, that is. And last is the truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So now we are now on the fourth stage. We say that this is the fourth noble truth on the way to end suffering, the way to the cessation of suffering, which is this noble truth, this eightfold path. That is Sammaditthi, which is right view, Samma Sankappo, right thought, Samma Vaca, right speech, Samma Kammanto, right action, Samma Ajivo, right livelihood, Samma Vayamo, right effort, Samma Satis, right mindfulness, and Samma Samadhi, which is right concentration. Okay, so now we'll move on. Those of you who are not with us, you want to ask us any questions, you can interrupt me anytime. Okay, anytime you can interrupt me and ask me. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, sister. Okay, now we'll continue with where we left last week. Okay, for the explanation of the Eightfold Path, maybe after we have finished this sutta, we will spend a little bit more time to understand a little bit more on what is this all about. Okay, when it comes to an appropriate section, I shall stop and then we shall revisit the Eightfold Path. Yeah. So now we'll continue with the next stanza. It says, Idang dukkang arya satchanti me bhikkave be ananusute sudhammesu Chakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vijja udapadi aloko udapadi. So there what it says is, this is the noble truth of suffering. Thus, bhikkhu, in regards to things unheard before. So remember, the word is unheard before. And then it says, there arose in me vision, okay, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light. Okay, so the Buddha says it arose in him things that are unheard before. So what does that mean? Which means to say that the Buddha did not copy from any other people. Neither is this the teaching from any other superior beings that came down to teach him. This has never been heard before. Meaning to say that the Buddha found this truth himself, not from any assistance from anybody else outside the human world or any other teachers that taught him. He found this truth himself. That is why he is called a Samma Sambuddha, meaning he's fully enlightened by himself. And when we are enlightened through his teaching, we become an Arahant. Okay? We don't become a Samma Sambuddha like him. We become an Arahant, who's also actually enlightened. So that is the difference between Samma Sambuddha and Arahant. So now, this stanza says that the Buddha says that this truth, idang, this dukkang, suffering, Arya Satchang, noble truth, puppe, in the past, before, ananusute sudamme su, this Dhamma is not heard before, never heard before. Chakung, that means is vision. Udapadi is rose. Vidya is higher knowledge. Aloko is light. Jnanang is knowledge. Panya is wisdom. Okay, so that's why the Buddha says all these arose in him. And this has never been heard before. Okay, any questions on this side? So the gist of this stanza is the Buddha says that this is never heard before, meaning to say that if somebody tells you that the Buddhist, somebody small, superior, came down to teach him, not true. If somebody says this is copied from their religion, not true. Sometimes, that's what I'm saying, sometimes they say that, maybe during the Brahmanic period, they say this is all the Brahma teachings, Brahmanic teaching, which is not true. This is definitely original teaching from the Buddha. So if anybody claims otherwise, you can quote this stanza and tell him, no, this is 100% from the Buddha. So you can memorize this. Idang dukkang arya satchanti me bhikkave puppe ananusute sudamme su chakung udapadi, vision arose, jnanang udapadi, knowledge arose, panya udapadi, wisdom arose, Vidya, higher knowledge, meaning to say that the knowledge leading to enlightenment arose, and aloko udapadi, light arose. So he saw the vision. We always say he saw, then he became enlightened. Okay, so we go to the next stanza. No question, we move on. Tangko panidang dukkang arya satchang parinyayanti me bhikkave puppe ananusute sudambe su chakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. What does he say here? He says this noble truth of suffering is to be fully understood. Okay, first the Buddha says this is a noble truth of suffering. Okay, remember, first is this is a noble truth of suffering, meaning that the knowledge of the noble truth of suffering. Now the Buddha used the word parinyayanti, to be fully understood. Knowing is one thing. Fully understand is very important. So here the Buddha uses the word parinyayanti. You must fully understand the truth of dukkha. Okay, knowing, we all know life is dukkha, but how many of us fully understand that it is really dukkha? We don't, because we are still attached to many of our things. And it's the attachment that causes dukkha. Okay, later we will understand when we go back to the second noble truth. It is the attachment, the craving is the cause of dukkha. So the Buddha said that now we all know, everybody knows that, oh yes, life is suffering, we know, but we are still attached to that kind of our old views, our ignorance is still there. We are still attached to this self, we are still attached to our many things. And that is the cause of suffering. So now the Buddha says that knowing the truth of suffering is not good enough. You must fully understand the truth of suffering. That means you got to investigate, you have to contemplate on it. So the word the Buddha used, parinyayanti, to be fully understood. And then again, the Buddha says, this knowledge arose in him, never heard before. Remember, never heard before. In this stanza, you must remember, puppe ananusutesu dhammesu. This dhamma has never been heard before. He did not learn it from anybody. Because if it heard before me, somebody has heard it and taught him. So this is not true. He found it himself. This is the lost truth. Remember, this is not invented by the Buddha again. This Dhamma is not invented by the Buddha. This is called the ancient truth. The truth that has been lost. That's why the Buddha came back and they found the truth again and they continue to preach again. That's why you use the word ancient truth. Remember, we always read as the ancient truth. You read all the old books, they tell you these are the ancient truth because this truth existed by previous Buddha, but has been completely lost from this world. Then the new Buddha. So when this Dhamma that we are talking about is completely lost one day, then the new Buddha called Maitreya or Maitreya that we all know of will appear, and then he will continue the same life that the Buddha has done. He'll be born as a prince, he'll go through, got married, get a child, then go to the forest, and then sit under a tree, then become enlightened again. And what will he teach? The same truth. Truth cannot differ, must be the same. Correct? He cannot teach you another truth. Okay, so all the Buddhas from the past also taught the same truth. That's why this is called the ancient truth, which has been completely lost. And he found it again. Okay. Okay, so now remember, knowing the truth is one level. Fully understand the truth. Try to fully understand. To be fully understood, try to understand. Is a second level of understanding. First, you know it exists. Second is to fully understand. We go to the next stanza.
Brother Tan.
Yes.
Before we proceed further, now it says we need to fully understand.
Yeah.
To what extent of understanding will it be required for us to qualify as to be fully understand?
Okay, we continue the stanzas and then we will understand. We will answer that question. As we continue, the answer will come. What do you mean by you can fully understand? Okay, very good question, brother. Okay, except that we will come to it later. Don't worry. Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think it was very wonderful. So, okay, you please interrupt me like that. Then, okay, the answer to that will come. Fully understand. It is not a small thing. Okay, when we come to that part, then I will elaborate more maybe. Okay, so we'll go to the next stanza. Okay, fully understand. We have to explain that later. I just take notes. Okay. Okay, tangko panidang dukkang ariya satchang parinya tanti me bhikkave be ananusute sudhammesu cakung udapadi nyanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. Okay, what the Buddha says now is this noble truth of suffering has been fully understood. Okay, now the Buddha go to one step ahead. First he says there's a knowledge. Second, he says must be understood. Then now he says has been fully understood. Okay, remember these three levels. Okay, so the Buddha says that this noble truth of suffering has been fully understood. Thus, bhikkhu, in regards to things unheard before. Again, pubbya ananusute sudhammesu. This Dhamma has never been heard before. Cakung udapadi, Jnanang udapadi, Panya udapadi, Vidya udapadi, Aloko udapadi. Light arose finally. So he saw the light. Eventually in darkness, you see the light. That's why the Dhamma is like the light that dispels darkness. So that's why the Buddha used the last word, Aloko udapadi. Light arose. That means he suddenly saw everything very clearly. Light arose in me. Okay? Okay. Earlier part, of course, you know, vision arose in him, knowledge arose, wisdom arose, higher knowledge arose, and finally light arose. Meaning, in darkness, he was also living in darkness, but he suddenly saw the light. And we are still living in darkness. We still don't see the light. Sometimes lightning comes, we just get glimpse and then we forget again. And that is happening. So we want the light to be sustained longer so that we can see. So that is the idea of having mind being concentrated, mind being very, very calm. That's why it's very important about mindfulness, to remain calm, upeka, and all those things. So that we can sustain that light and make sure that it remains there for us to see all the time. Okay, then we will know why is it important. Okay, so we go to no question here. Has been fully understood. The Buddha says that the truth of suffering, it must be fully understood. Now the Buddha says has been fully understood. That's the 3 levels of understanding. Okay, first you know, second you pursue the knowledge, and then you fully understand, you fully comprehend. Okay, now we go to the next stanza, sister. Idang dukkha samudayang ariya satchanti me bhikkave puppe ananusute sudhammesu Chakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vijja udapadi aloko udapadi. Again here the Buddha says, this is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. Okay, the first noble truth has been covered. Now the second noble truth. Okay, this noble truth of the origin of suffering, thus because in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and the light. Aloko udapadi. So if we can remember, now the Buddha says that this noble truth of the origin of suffering, what is the origin of suffering? What is the cause of this suffering we are talking about? That he has fully understood. The Buddha has fully understood suffering. Now the Buddha says this is the cause of suffering. Okay, so he says that this is the cause of suffering, and this light rose in him again. Okay, so any question on this slide? Nothing, Okay, we continue. Tangko panidang dukkha samudayang ariya satchang pahatap panti me bhikkave puppe ananusute sudhammesu chakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vijja udapadi aloko udapadi. Okay, then here again the Buddha says that this noble truth of the origin of suffering is to be abandoned. Okay, you know that there is this noble truth of suffering, which is, of course, Buddha says, which is the craving. Kama tangha, bhava tangha, vibhava tangha. Now we know, yes, this craving. Then the Buddha says, now you should abandon this craving. Correct. Knowing that this is the cause. Yes, we all know. Correct. Attachment, craving for sensual pleasures, we know, but we are still going for this kind of thing. Correct. So the Buddha says that now, having known that, now you should try to abandon this cause of suffering. You must abandon this cause of suffering. Okay. So there's a second level again. Now the first level, you know there is the cause of suffering, which we say is bhava tangha, vibhava tangha, kama tangha. Yes. Now the Buddha says you abandon this lah. You know already, you must abandon lah. Correct. Otherwise, knowing doesn't help. Must put to practice, then you abandon. The other way, sometimes people say pariyati lah. So pariyati, patipati, pativeda. Knowledge, practice, and realization. So that is the 3 level. Okay, we continue. Okay, no questions. Then the Buddha continued. I will stop this and then we'll have a discussion later. Don't worry. Tangko panidang dukkha samudayang ariya satchang pahi nanti me bhikkave puppe ananusute sudammesu Cakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. Then the Buddha continued and said, this noble truth of the origin of suffering has been abandoned. Okay, so the Buddha declared that this noble truth of suffering, which we talk about, Kama Tangha, Bhava Tangha, Vibhava Tangha, but we are still attached to Kama Tangha. We are still attached to sensual pleasures. But the Buddha says he has abandoned this. Okay? Knowing, try to abandon, has been abandoned. Pariyati, patipati, pativeda. Knowledge, practice, realization. Correct? So the same thing with this lah. So now we understand again that the Buddha says that this has been abandoned. The cause of suffering has been abandoned. Okay, we continue, sister. Idang dukkha nirodang ariya satchanti me bhikkave puppe ananusute sudammesu Cakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. Okay, then the Buddha says, now idang dukkha nirodang. What is nirodha? Means cessation. Nirodha means cessation. Dukkha means suffering. So this noble truth of the cessation of suffering. Okay. Now we know the cessation of suffering. Okay. The Buddha says there is the noble truth of cessation of suffering, which again has never been heard before. Because of things never heard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and the light. Aloko udapadi. And the light arose in him. So that this is the cessation of suffering. The Buddha says the truth of the cessation of suffering. Now that is the first level again. This pariyati. He knows. Okay. Then we go to the next stanza, sister. Tangko panidang dukkha nirodang ariya satchang satchika tapanti me bhikkave puppe ananusute sudammesu cakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. What did the Buddha says about dukkha nirodang, a cessation of suffering? The Buddha says the noble truth of the cessation of suffering is to be realized. You must realize the cessation of suffering. Okay, you must realize the cessation of suffering. The Buddha says, Satchika tapanti. You must realize. Okay, is to be realized. Okay, or you have to realize. Now, knowing is not good enough. Then you must realize what is this cessation of suffering all about. Okay, you must realize. Because cessation of suffering is nibbana. So you must try to realize nibbana. Okay, then we continue. Tangko panidang dukkha nirodang ariya satchang satchika tanti me bhikkave puppe ananusutesu dhammesu Chakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. And the Buddha says that this noble truth of the cessation of suffering has been fully realized. He has fully realized. Thus, bhikkhu, in regard to things unheard before, again, the Buddha stressed this all the time. This is not heard before. That this is actually arose in him, this vision arose in him, the knowledge arose in him, the wisdom arose in him, and the light arose in him. He says, he repeated this every stanza, that this is not copied, this is not taught to him by anybody. No teacher taught to him, no superior being taught to him. This is realization. That's why the Buddha repeats this every time. Okay, then we go to the next stanza. And then the last noble truth, the Buddha says, Idang dukkha nirodha gamini patipada arya satchanti me bhikkhave puppe ananusutesu dhammesu Chakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. Then here the Buddha says again, dukkha nirodha gamini patipada. That term also we have to remember, gamini patipada, which is actually the or the central way. That is the core teaching of the Buddha, is the middle way. Correct? No extremism. Don't be an extremist, okay? Follow the middle way. The Buddha says that the way to the cessation of suffering is the middle way. Correct? The Buddha said this is the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Gamini patipada, the middle way. Okay? So the Buddha says this is the noble truth to the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Thus, bhikkhu, in regards to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge, and light arose in him. Okay? So now we know that now there is the truth to end, the way to end this suffering we're talking about. And we are all interested in the way to end this suffering. The Buddha says this is the truth to the way of ending suffering, which is the middle way. No extremism. The Buddha told them before, no kame sukame, those kame sukali kanu yogo, atta kila matanu yogo. So self-mortification and too much of sensual pleasures, this extreme, the Buddha says, don't go to that extreme. You must abandon this, Sometimes these are not extreme, they can go in between, As far as this kind of attachment, the Buddha says, abandon them. Completely abandon. So that's why people say it's a central way. Okay, so we continue, sister. Tangko panidang duk nirodha gamini patipada arya satchang avetap banti me bhikkave puppe ananusutesu dhammesu Chakung udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. So what the Buddha says here is this noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. We all know earlier that there is a noble truth to the cessation of suffering. The Buddha says this must be developed. We must develop this middle way. We must develop the Eightfold Path. In short, the middle way, the Buddha's teaching is the Eightfold Path. Remember, we already said, Samma ditti, samma sankappo, samma vacha, samma kammanto, samma ajivo, samma vayamo. Correct. Samma sati, samma samadhi. So the Buddha has made it very clear for us. Now the Buddha says knowing is not good enough. You must develop this eightfold path. You must follow this eightfold path. Okay, then we can discuss a little bit more on the eightfold path. So the Buddha said it must be developed or it must be cultivated. This eightfold path, you know, but you still want to go and do illegal things. What for? You still say, Buddha says, Samma Vacha. We still want to use, we want to scold people. We still want to, what for? So the Buddha says, you must develop. Knowing the eightfold path by heart like a parrot doesn't help, but you must practice the eightfold path. Then you come to realization. Nobody can help you with that realization. That is through your own cultivation of practicing the eightfold path, which is very, very important. Nobody can help you to develop that. Nobody can help you to understand that. It is to your own. Buddhism is about self-realization. Okay. So the last, the slide, okay. Tangko panidang dukkha nirodha gamini patipada arya satchang avitanti me bhikkave puppe ananussute sudhammesu Chakkum udapadi jnanang udapadi panya udapadi vidya udapadi aloko udapadi. Okay, then the Buddha says, these noble truths of the way leading to the cessation of suffering has been fully developed. So the Buddha says this in him, he has fully developed this. Okay? So the Buddha says he has fully developed this dukkha nirodha gamini patipada. Okay, the middle way is fully developed. He knows, he says must be developed, and he has fully developed. Then what happens when he says this? This is fully developed, so what? Correct. So we want to know what happened now, Buddha. You say you're fully developed. So what do you get? Okay, we continue with the next slide. Then the Buddha says, Yavaki vancha me bhikkave imesu chatusu arya satchesu evang tiparivattang dvadasakarang yatha bhutang jnana dassana na suvisuddhang ahosi devata vahang bhikkave sadevake loke samarake sabrahmake sassamana brahmaniya pajaya sadeva manusaya anuttarang samma sambodhing abhisambuddho paccanyasin. And the Buddha says, so long bhikkhu. Okay, this is the important part. Okay, that may answer Brother Weng Choi's question also. Okay, so long bhikkhu, as my knowledge and vision of these four noble truths, the Buddha says, as they really are in their 3 phases and 12 aspects, was not thoroughly purified in this way, I did not claim to be awakened to the unsurpassed, perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas, maras, and brahmas, in this generation with its ascetics and brahmins, the devas and humans. So the Buddha says, as long as he has not understood, fully understood these 4 noble truths in these 3 phases, or in these 3 phases of knowledge, phases of pariyati, patipati, practice and realization. It's easier to understand now, but the Buddha used different words. The Buddha used parinyayanti, pahatambanti, and all that. We will come to that. Okay. So the Buddha says, as long as he have not understood this Four Noble Truth in these three aspects, and in these 12 modes, or you call it three phases and 12 aspects, fine. Every truth, you must have the three levels of understanding: knowledge, the deeper understanding, and realization. Knowledge, deeper understanding, realization. So that's what the Buddha said. So as long as he has not have that clear in his mind, he did not claim to be enlightened. Okay, we go to the next stanza. Okay. Yato chako me bhikkhave imesu chatusu ariya satchesu evang tiparivatang dvadasakarang yatha bhutang jnana dasanang visuddhang ahosi atahang bhikkhave sadevake loke samarake sa brahmake sasamana brahmaniya pajaya sadeva manusaya anuttarang samma sambodhing abhisambuddho pacchanyasing. Okay, here the keyword is dvadasakarang. You must remember the word dvadasakarang, tiparivattam, three levels, dvadasakarang, the 12 aspects or 12 modes. So, but when my knowledge, okay, and then the Buddha says here, so this may answer our brother Choi's question, but when my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths as they really are, in their three phases and 12 aspects, was thoroughly purified in this way. Okay, the Buddha says, when I've understood this Four Noble Truth in these three phases and 12 aspects, knowledge, practice, and realization, I understood them in these 12 ways, in these 12 modes, on the 12 ways. Then I claim to be awakened. Then only he claimed that he was enlightened. Okay, without this kind of knowledge, he did not claim that he was enlightened. Now he says that when he have understood this Four Noble Truths in these three levels, in these 12 aspects, and thoroughly purified in this way, then I claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world. With these Maras and Devas means they are witness, and the Brahmas. Brahmas are those days, or the Brahmas world, are from the Brahma world, and this generation, and even the people now, we say with the ascetics, the Brahmins, that is the Brahmin priests and all those things, is Devas and humans. All of them have seen this now, that he is fully enlightened by understanding the Four Noble Truths in these three levels and 12 modes. Right? So this Four Noble Truths is not an easy subject. Right? The Buddha did not claim. That is why, you see, that is why I couldn't answer Brother Weng Choi's question. How do you know? If I know that Brother Weng Choi, I'm halfway through Brother Weng Choi. Correct. So that is, we have to realize we have to realize if I am able to tell you how to understand this, then I'm there. So unfortunately, I'm far from there. So sometimes these things are, because Buddhism is called experiential religion. The Buddha is teaching us from his experience, not his knowledge alone. It is not about knowledge. Buddhism is about knowing, putting to practice and see how. Then when you have put it to practice, you will realize it yourself. Nobody can realize it for you. So to understand, to fully understand means this is the third level. to fully understand suffering. Because we all know that there is suffering. But how many of us really can understand suffering? Many of us don't agree life is suffering. Some people say, well, I got suffering in life. Huh? And so that is where we have to fully realize that in this world, okay, then what do you mean by fully understand? Maybe in my level, I explained to you only. I'm not there. So okay, fully understand means that suffering is because of impermanence. Right? We understand that everything in this world, there is cause and effect. Everything happens in this world. Everything that happens in this world is due to cause and effect. Dependent origination. Because dependent origination follows the natural law of cause and effect. Okay? Of action and reaction. In relation to all physical and mental processes. Right? It is not invented by the Buddha, but these are, we say, natural law, So the paticca samuppada, cause and effect. So now to fully realize suffering is also to realize cause and effect. We know, and also to realize impermanence. Cause and effect means impermanence. Why? Because there is cause, there is effect. You remove the cause, there is no effect. So life is impermanent. Yeah. So that is why to realize suffering is to realize, number one, impermanence. Okay. And what do you mean by impermanence is also, we can correlate that to paticca samuppada, cause and effect. This is also telling you is impermanent. Correct? Everything happens not by chance. Nothing happened by chance. It all happens because of a cause. Right? When there is a cause, there is an effect. When you remove the cause, there's no effect. Correct? So that is why the Buddha says that this dependent origination follows the natural law of cause and effect, of action and reaction in relation to all physical and mental processes in the universe with no exception. There is no exception to this cause and effect. Now, don't say, oh, that one no cause and effect. No, everything in the world is cause and effect. The Buddha says, physical and mental, this is definitely there. But that does not mean that there is a cause. Okay, then the Buddha qualified but you must be careful. It's not meant to describe origin of life. This cause and effect. That is why people say that the Buddha, you see, some people say the Buddha knew about paticca samuppada. He did not contemplate on paticca samuppada on the night. No, he did. Yes, he knew about paticca samuppada. He knew. Okay, the Buddha knew about paticca samuppada before enlightenment. You and I today also know everything has cause, everything has effect. But what is the use of knowing this cause and effect? That is important. So that is why when the Buddha contemplated on that night of enlightenment, he also contemplated on cause and effect to elaborate, to understand more. Correct? He knows cause and effect before enlightenment. We don't dispute. But don't say he did not contemplate. He did, because of this cause and effect, that he sat down. I think there was a third watch, isn't it? Then he sat down and then he reflected. Then he realized that the truth of suffering, the suffering has cause. Why are we here? Then he realized, why are we here? Why is this suffering here? So this is an elaboration, he contemplated on that night because he knew about cause and effect. Yes, but he was thinking, what is the purpose of knowing cause and effect? The Buddha always said, no point. Correct? But to practice and deeper understanding and realization. So he tried to understand what is cause and effect. Then he realized, yes, the truth of suffering has a cause. Correct? And there's a way to end suffering. To remove the effect and suffering. Then the Buddha knows that the purpose of the paticca samuppada is correlated with the Four Noble Truths. So when he realized the truth of suffering is to realize impermanence, the law of impermanence, and to realize that everything happens with a cause. Meaning to say that everything is impermanent. You remove the cause, it doesn't happen. Correct? You and me quarrel because of a cause, wrong view. Because we stick to our view. Both are stubborn. Both want to stick to the view. Then you quarrel. Huh? But if you remove that stubbornness in us, let us accept each other's view. You remove the quarrel. Correct? So that is the meaning. Nothing is permanent. It can be undone. Remove the cause. Okay? So when the Buddha contemplated, yes, we agree the Buddha knew about cause and effect before enlightenment. Don't dispute. But on that night, yes, he did contemplate that and he correlated with the. Then he realized what's the purpose. Yeah, it is about suffering. Correct. Suffering has a cause. Correct. Then he found the Four Noble Truths, which is actually a higher understanding of the Paticca. Then he realized. So that is how I will take it. Of course, this is from my level. If somebody else is got a very much higher level, like I've said, we are not enlightened, so our views are different. It can be corrected. Correct. I'm not saying this is the perfect view. No. I'm not enlightened, so I cannot explain this the best I can do. So I share this way. Okay, so Brother Weng Choi, any more questions on that? Will that answer you, Brother Weng Choi?
Yes. Okay, for timing, yeah, I think it's a good answer.
Yeah, so we have to realize that to understand fully is to know that these are temporary. That we know that this suffering is also temporary and all these has a cause and effect. We have to correlate this also. You see, the gist of the Buddha's teaching is actually very important. The core teaching is the Four Noble Truths. Yes, Four Noble Truths alone, like I've said, it's not easy to understand. The Buddha chose the 5 disciples. His first 5 disciples are also people who have practiced with him together. They are also a very high level. Right? They are not simple people like you and me. Just hear Four Noble Truths. You can realize. We cannot. Impossible. So none of them could realize. Except for Kondanya, he realized a little bit, he became a Sotapanna. But only when the Buddha correlated that with the not self, Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, then only they can realize dukkha more clearly. When they talk about this body is not yours, not self, the Panchu Padana Kanda Dukkha, then only they can understand what is the meaning. When the Buddha says that this is not self, then they understood. So they realized, then only they became Arahants. After the second sutta, only after the second teaching. So it's not a simple thing to understand. So our level, we have to try to understand fully. Okay, now if we find it difficult to understand, we must correlate this with our Paticca or to the 3 universal laws. A law of impermanence, a law of dukkha, law of anatta. Correct? And everything is impermanent, everything is dukkha, and everything is not self. That is the 3 universal laws. So these 3 universal laws can be correlated here again to support us to understand. Many of us find difficult to realize suffering and to realize Gamini Patipada, middle way. Give up attachment. We find it difficult because we have not accepted that this body is not self. We think that this body is us. That is our problem today. But if we realize that this body is not self, it is the 5 aggregates, the Buddha says, the clinging aggregates that form this body, and then we can realize better. The clinging aggregates, we will talk about it when we come to the Aditta Pariyaya Sutta. I think I will explain there better, I think, rather than all I cover here means we don't need to go to Aditta. Okay, so we'll continue from here. Do you want to continue? Or any more questions? Brother Kevin, you want to say something?
Brother, just now you explained, I think is quite right. When the Buddha contemplated before he entered into the enlightened stage, those questions actually is already in his mind, and But is that he doesn't get the endorsement whether those things that he had thought up, contemplated are correct. That was during his enlightenment. He saw his past birth. The second stage of his enlightenment was when he saw things are changing from one rupa to another, and the next and next. He saw his past birth and he saw the suffering that's going on. So all this enlightenment during the three stages, then he fully understood what he contemplated has these answers. And the two, just now we explained the two, let me see. That is stanza 23 and 24. That is called the declaration of Buddha awakening. First, he says negative. He says that if I have not realized the truth, I would not claim. Then stanza 24, he confirmed, I have achieved enlightenment. I confirm those knowledge, vision I see are correct. Actually, many people those who think that are challenging us in Buddhism is whether Buddha is enlightened or not. These two, stanza 23 and 24, is a declaration by the Buddha. It cannot go wrong. He has perfectly uttered his awakening statement. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. That is brother's way. It is a very, very clear way of putting things again. So there are many ways we must present ourselves. That was very good, brother Kevin. Thank you so much. So there are many ways that we can put it to understand, because all of us have a different kind of maturity and this kind of understanding, of course. So we understand. So brother Kevin has put it in a very nice way for us to understand also that the Buddha declared that he is enlightened. Correct? He declared that he's enlightened, not that people give him a title about his enlightenment. Correct? Okay, anybody else want to ask anything or want to add something? Go ahead, and we are just among friends. Go ahead. Okay, so this is done, isn't it? Okay, this is done. Okay, now we will continue with the stanza 25. It says, Yanancha paname dasanang udapadi akupa me ceto vimutti ayamanti ma jati nati dani punapavoti. So then the Buddha says here, the knowledge and vision arose in me. Unshakable is the liberation of my mind. This is my last birth. Again, like what Brother Kevin says, he reinforces that he's enlightened, that he has no more birth. This is my last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence. Okay? So he has torn down all the rafters to the house. There's no more house. So that is what the Buddha says now to reinforce what Brother Kevin has said. He declared that he has achieved the unshakable. Unshakable is the liberation of my mind. I think Buddhism is always talking about the mind. So this is my last birth, meaning he will not be reborn again, meaning he is enlightened. Not to be reborn means you are enlightened. Correct? You are already in Nibbana. So you are the Arahan or Sama Sambuddha or Pachaka Buddha. But he says that he is Sama Sambuddha because this is Ananusute Sudamme Su. He did not learn it from people. It's self-realization that makes him a Sama Sambuddha. You can say Ananusute Sudamme Su means he is declaring that he is a Sama Sambuddha. Because Sama Sambuddha did not learn from people. He self-realization. When you realize it yourself, you become a Sama Sambuddha. If you learn it from the Buddha, then you become an Arahant. Then if you self-realize, but you don't teach, then you become Pacceka Buddha. So there is the 3 levels of enlightenment in Theravada Buddhism. This is the Theravada view. Okay. Okay. Next stanza, sister, is it interesting? Next stanza. Okay. Idama vocha bhagava atmana panchavakya bhikkhu bhagavato basitang abhinandunti. So the Buddha says, this is not what the Buddha, this is what the Blessed One said. Elated, the bhikkhus of the group of 5 delighted in the Blessed One's statement. They were all very happy. But that does not mean that they have realized it, they were very happy that the Buddha is enlightened. So they were all very happy that the Buddha is enlightened. Okay, so we continue. Imasmin cha panaveya karanasmin panjamane ayasmato kondanyasa virajang vitamalam dhammacakkum udapadi yang kinci samudaya dhammang sabbantang niroda dhammanti. Okay, then here it says, while this discourse was being spoken, there arose in Venerable Kondanya, the dust-free, stainless vision of the Dhamma. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. So remember the realization, Brother Wing Choi? It's about realizing that things are impermanent, in short, you can interpret that way. That Kondanya realized whatever is subject to origination is subject to cessation. Okay, whatever is subject to origination is subject to cessation. Okay, so everything that is subjected by something is subjected to cessation. Don't worry. In this life, everything will cease when the cause is removed. Okay, so only Kondanya realized that. Only Kondanya. Remember, out of the five, only the most senior one or the oldest of them, he only realized. So it's not easy, Even hearing from the Buddha himself, his 5 friends could not realize anything, only Kondanya. So it is not a simple thing to be able to realize. So let us not blame ourselves. Yeah, why so stupid, we cannot realize. Don't worry. People at that level also cannot realize. So we must try, we cultivate ourselves slowly. Cultivate slowly. We just observe the 5 precepts first. Correct. We observe the 5 precepts, that means we are reinforcing our sila. Correct. Our morality is very important. That is the grounding for any development. All the development is about, we must have a strong grounding, which is the sila. Make sure, okay, we will continue first. Okay. And next stanza. Okay, then this one we can go later. Okay, number Pavati te chapana bhagavata dhammacakke Umma deva satta manusa vesum etang bhagavata varanasiyang isipatane migadaye anuttarang dhammacakkang pavatitang appativatiyang Samanena va brahmanena va devena va marena va brahmuna va kena jiva lokasminti. Okay, this one maybe next week we can cover this and have some discussion. Okay, this is, we will introduce you the 31 planes of existence next week. So when the wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Buddha started the teaching, the wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion. The earth-dwelling devas raised a cry at Varanasi, the deer park at Isipatana. This unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Buddha, by the Blessed One, which cannot be stopped by any ascetic or any Brahmin or any devas or Mara or Brahma or anyone in the world. Nobody can stop this Dhamma from being dissipated, is it? This Dhamma will continue. Nobody can stop. That is why after 2,600 years, we are still learning the Dhamma. No Mara can block. No Devas can block. No Brahma can block. Not anyone in the world, any ascetic can block. It will continue to flourish in this world. Okay, so that is what. Then next week we will learn about the 31 planes of existence. Okay, we can discuss a bit. Okay, we just leave it there first, Sister. So, okay, maybe we can discuss this and then we can finish this one. Next week we can do something else. Okay, so just now we are talking about the foundation first. So, you see, the foundation is very important. So, we must first try to practice our 5 precepts as close as possible. Correct? You don't kill. Remember, you don't steal. Correct? That is what the Buddha says, right action, isn't it? If you don't have sexual misconduct, that's what the Buddha says, sammakammanto. You see, we are practicing the Eightfold Path as right action. Don't forget. We are also practicing our right view. We understand the view. The first one is sammadittis, right view. What does it mean? We know things are impermanent. We believe in the Four Noble Truths. We believe in the law of impermanence. We believe. So now, when we practice our Panchasila, what does it mean? That means we are actually having right view. We're having right thoughts. Right? We have right actions. Don't forget now, we have got right actions there also, isn't it? We don't steal. We don't kill. Right? We got right livelihood also. Don't forget. Correct? We got right speech there. We say we musavada, veramani, sikkhapadang, samadhiyami. Musavada is there. Right speech is there. So we're actually cultivating, don't worry. Just the 5 precepts, we are actually cultivating our Eightfold Path. Because you have right view to want to cultivate. You have right thoughts to want to cultivate. You have right speech, okay, that is musavada, want to cultivate, isn't it? So you don't simply, no frivolous talk, don't scold people, don't tell lies. Sometimes you don't say things to cari makan. If you tell lies, there's some different else. Sometimes people say, politicians, number one, they like to say wrong things, bad things about people. That will fall under musavada and also will fall under samavacha. That means they are also, okay, that is samavacha. That means not right speech and also not right livelihood. They're telling lies to earn a living. Correct? So if you tell lies to earn a living, that is, you're breaking two lah. It's samavacha and sama ajivo. Correct? Your life, right livelihood also. That means you are just trying to bluff people just to earn a living. So you must remember, so when we practice our 5 precepts, and we don't kill, remember it's right action. We don't kill. Good. Thoughts also correct one. Correct? Our thoughts are also good. Correct? Good. Also livelihood, because sometimes people kill to cari makan. They are butcher or they go and slaughter and things to sell. That is also right livelihood. You preach also. Correct. So you must remember, our 5 precepts is a very important tool the Buddha gave us. Then you say sexual misconduct and all these wrong actions. But if you do it for cari makan, it's also wrong again. So you also breach your right livelihood. Correct. So you must remember, you can link all this, you can link all this. I'm going a bit too fast. I understand. I'm going to prepare notes. I'm just talking from what I know and what I can experience. Correct. So now we say, don't kill, don't steal, don't tell lies, don't have sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct, yes, wrong action, also wrong livelihood. Some people do that for makan, cari makan. Don't do that. So also when we say that, what else we say? Intoxication. Intoxication is also about mindfulness. You want to remain mindful all the time, sati all the time, concentrated all the time. If you got liquor in you, you cannot. Cannot. When you are your influence of liquor, your concentration cannot be right lah. Correct. Your thoughts also may not be right lah. That's why the Buddha says we don't drink better lah. Not that we must not drink. Don't forget the Buddha never give commandments. The Buddha never say you cannot drink. But we analyze that drinking, that means I cannot focus on my mind lah. My mind cannot be stable. I cannot focus. My thoughts cannot be good. So we avoid lah. So Buddhism is about cultivation lah. But if you think you take one sip just to oblige your friend's wedding, friend's son's wedding, go ahead lah. But as long as your mind still remains steady, your thoughts are not clouded, then it's fine. Correct. So we don't breach lah, So that's why, and I say you practice the Eightfold Path, you remember, you go back and think about it. You analyze slowly, musawada, okay. Panatipata, don't kill. That is action. That is also livelihood. Musawada also, speech, same also, livelihood also. Some people like to tell lies. They go to the stage there, politicians in particular, they will just blah, blah, blah. And then we give them the vote. That is cari makan. That is also breach lah. Apart from sama vaca, is also livelihood lah. Correct. Then sexual misconduct, again, same. And musawada, same. Then without intoxicant, same. We breach your sati and your thoughts. So you see, so now we must cultivate our Eightfold Path. We understand, we know, but now we understand better. Correct? So each time when we want to maintain our 8 precepts, we know that we are also trying to develop or cultivate the Eightfold Path. Don't forget, now the Buddha says you must develop and must cultivate. Not knowing. Knowing is one. You must now try to develop that quality until it is fully developed in you. What do you mean by fully developed? Fully developed means, you see, this is my I'm not fully developed lah. I'm fully developed, like I said, I'm there lah. See, sometimes when we say fully developed means what, many of us have that kind of lightning light, like Buddha says, the light arose in him. We got no light arising in us lah. But sometimes lightning, then we see a bit and then we forget lah. We are also actually practicing trying to develop Eightfold Path. Don't forget. So we are actually developing our Eightfold Path until we can fully see, then we understand. Until such time, we must continue. We know the Eightfold Path. We know, so we must try to cultivate that nature. That what do you mean by fully developed? That means you must come to a state, Example, you see those insects, when you burn, when there's an open fire, you notice insects will just come and dive in, Why do they dive in? It's the reflex, correct? They see fire, it's the reflex to try to put out the fire, and they burn themselves, finish. So we must, okay. Also the feather, I like to give this example like a feather. Feather has no more life, You try to put a candle and then put the feather near the candle. You see the feather will just go away, isn't it? Correct? The feather will just bend away. Does the feather feel the pain? No. But it is just, by nature, it is like that. One side will expand, it just move away. So we must cultivate ourselves to such a level whereby we learn to give with no expectation of return. Today, many of us want to give dana. We must say, oh, this is very dedicated to here, dedicated to that. Oh, my children are sitting for exam, So we are expecting a reward, in short. Correct. So sometimes we give with this kind of expectation. So you must cultivate yourself in such a way that you give with no more idea of expectation. Correct. As a reflex, For instance, you see something smelly. Correct. We walk away from the smell, not because we want to say, no, but because we know it's bad, we keep away. Not because you don't like bad. You must keep away because as a reflex, we see something that's no good, we just walk away. No point, ayo, ayah, just keep away. So that we must cultivate to that level. When we give with no expectation of a reward, and also when we avoid, don't mean that we don't like. We must avoid bad. Doesn't mean that bad. You see, we are avoiding bad today because we know bad has got bad mark, bad karma. Correct? Akusala karma. So we don't do, but we must also neglect this part, whereby we just don't do bad because we have cultivated ourselves in such a way that we just avoid it. We see bad things, we just avoid it. Don't ask me to go to these places to gamble. I just avoid it, not because it's bad, because I have cultivated myself in such a way that I don't gamble. Not because gambling is bad. I don't feel it's bad, but I just avoid it. Finish. But yes, our first stage is we learn gambling is bad. Don't gamble. Gamble is bad. Yes. Now, when you say fully developed, what do you mean by fully developed? That means you just simply don't gamble. None of us would like to gamble, not because it is bad, because we have cultivated ourselves to that level, but we don't gamble anymore. Right? None of us will do silly things like killing people. Not because we are afraid to go to prison, sometimes we just don't simply we don't want to do. That level you must come, whereby you give not because you want a reward. Right? You avoid not because it is bad. Avoid bad just as a reflex. Give just as a reflex. And no more attachment to that giving. That kind of level is called fully developed. Then you are fully developed. Just like the feather, when you put the feather near the fire, it will just bend away. Not because the fire is feeling the pain. The feather is feeling the pain. The feather does not feel pain. But as a reflex, it just keeps away. Right? At that kind of level, we have to cultivate ourselves. Then we are fully developed. All right? But under such time, we are still using excuse of food and no food, avoid food. Yes, that is our first step. We continue with that first. Until it becomes a reflex. Okay, I hope it is clear. I try my level best. So okay, anybody else ask anything or want to add in? Giving dana is good. Oh, I get married, then my next birth is good. We are still attached. Right? We must come to a level where we just give, finish. That is the level that's fully developed. But many of us, we still expect a return in a way. But of course, our returns are very pure. But still, there is an attachment. Right? Although it is pure, don't forget, there's still attachment until you completely give up this. And that is fully developed. Whereby you do it as a reflex. Just like I said, none of us will gamble. I think if I ask you all to go and sit and play poker, none of you will do it. Right? Initially, we don't want to do because we know that we don't have money to lose. Or do we come back and then you lose your money, your wife will make noise. Yes, initially we develop that way. But when we come to this level, automatically we don't do it. Not because we are afraid that the wife will grumble, not because we are afraid we lose money, We don't enjoy it anymore. That is kind of cultivation you must do. Until all the bad things you don't want to do because you just reflex, not because you are scared of people, not scared of arrest, not scared of your wife, not scared of bad karma, born in the wrong place. No, nothing to do with karma, nothing. Just I don't want to do, finish. That's all. So that is still have a long journey. We have to go to see the Kasapa brothers, and then this last journey. So we got 2 more long journey before we end our 8th session. So let me see how I can do it. The 31 planes, maybe we can go very quickly, I think. We all know about 31 planes of existence, isn't it? Okay. Okay, if not, then we just end our session today, isn't it? So before we end, let's do our regular dedication again. So brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, we have spent an hour and a half discussing the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and I'm sure during such time our mind stayed focused, stayed concentrated, and no unwholesome thoughts came to our mind. And when our mind remains pure with no unwholesome thoughts, we have accrued abundance of merits. And these merits again we share with all our protective devas. And we hope that they will rejoice in these merits and eventually they too will attain the perfect bliss of Nibbana. And by virtue of these merits, may they continue to bless us with good health, longevity, success, happiness, prosperity, and above all wisdom to walk the Buddha's path. We must also recall to mind the names of loved ones and all our previous ancestors whom we have not met before. We hope that these merits can reach them if they are in need of these merits to help them in their spiritual well-being. However, in the event that if they are reborn on the celestial planes, may they too rejoice in these merits and shower unto all of us here the choicest blessings and protection. Our aspiration as always, may we be blessed with the company of the good and the wise always. May we not follow the ways of the foolish. May we be blessed with good friends and good teachers who can guide us along the path. May they guide us along this path up to our final liberation. Etavata cha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sape deva sape satta sape bhuta anumodantu sapa sampatti siddhya idang me nyati nang otu sukita hontu nyatayo idang me nyati nang otu sukita hontu nyatayo idang me nyati nang otu sukita hontu nyatayo imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya sadhu sadhu